Hi, my name is Louise. Welcome to the YouTube channel. My intention was to do a video that showed all the work that we've been doing, or I've been doing over the past year, and sort of show you some of the techniques and how they could all be put together and how they work or could work. But as per usual, the painting started to determine the process and determine the techniques that they required, both in colour and form and line. The abstracts are 6 abstracts on one piece of paper. They use collage and mark making that we've made in the videos previously, so I'll put links to them in the description below. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy, I hope you get something out of it, and all the best. I started off with just a piece of paper stretched onto a board, and I've divided it into 6 squares, so I'm going to do 6 abstracts just for fun. It's really tempting to just start laying it on and start making something from all these lovely pieces of paper that we've been making, or I've been making and showing you how to make. But I've got to start from the beginning, and I've got to start from a base and build up. So I'm going to start painting it all over, and then I'll lay the bits on. So funny because I've got some beautiful pieces like so, but I don't want to overcomplicate it. I think they do look nice. I sort of was going to try and keep it all to a black and white for now, so I will. For now, this slot is going to be black and white, and I'm going to use the beautiful pieces that we did with the printing on them. I mean, that's got paint on it, but some of these are just so lovely. So they were the rolled textures, and there's some really nice bits and pieces, so I'm going to have really good fun with this. Paint the background first, I think, and I will just speed this up. I've used acrylics, black and a lovely white silver, and I've got an iridescent gold as well, so it's more or less white but with an iridescent gold hue to it. And what I really like doing is letting the wet paints affect each other, so I'm not worried about dragging the colours in between each other and allowing the paintbrush to be corrupted, the paint mark to be corrupted by anything that's else in the picture that's still wet. And as I've gone on, I allow myself to be confident in what I'm doing, and I think it's something that you learn, that you sort of suddenly realise that your mark for some reason has both some sort of personality, a style, and a beauty of its own, and you sort of learn to be confident with that, things that you express with and the way you express them. I suppose you get so confident that eventually you learn to see when you've made a really beautiful mark, almost sort of haphazardly, almost by chance, to go with it, to enjoy it and celebrate it, and have the confidence to use it and let it be. So my piece of paper with my original, just covering it with paint, is dry, and now I use a mount board, or a piece of paper with a shape cut out of it to start thinking about the compositions that I want. I mean, I like that one as is, more or less, and I must admit I really like that one as is, so I might just really leave those and not bother too much. And then I go over to this one without this, and I feel it needs more, so I'm just going to start thinking about sort of the marks that I want to add to this. And honestly, sometimes it doesn't need very much at all. I mean, you could fuss like mad, and you're not going to get anything much better than that, are you? So in some respects, try not to fret about it. Like, I was going to add some red and stuff, and I might do, but I don't really, not that one. I go down to this one, and I just want some more information on this, and that one again needs more. But look, I mean, the dynamics of that mark there are lovely. I don't like this here. Might just be able to put a square of something in there. And then another thing is, look at this. This is lovely over it as well. So if you stuck that down, maybe I just shouldn't have painted it first. Oh gosh, that's so gorgeous. So these are some of the images that could be got from the roller video that I did, the last video I did, and it was mark making using a roller and inks and textures. There's a link to it either below the video or a little link on the top. But you see, some of these are just lovely as they are. They do really make really nice, weird little abstracts. But I'm not going to use them as they are because I know I can do them again. So I'm going to try and take bits out of them and enjoy it. I'm just going to play. This is like just using up all the bits and pieces that you've got to make some interesting abstracts. And this is invaluable, this thing. So I do really like this. Well, I think I'm just gonna, it seems like such a cheat, but I think I'm just gonna leave something like that. I love the dynamics of that. Maybe, shame I didn't think about that before, maybe because I like this line and I like these, I'm just going to try and get some of this diagonal mark making in. So I can cut a series of these away, can't I? Like so. And put that across. Sort of using what's already there, I suppose. See what happens. What I really like about these is the mark that it makes. You know, the noise that's contained in it as well. Oh yeah, that's nice. Honestly, and then they don't really need very much, do they? It seems a bit too simple, doesn't it? But I do like that. So I might more or less leave that. So you give it some thought, try and work out what it is you want to do. And I suppose when you've done it, when you've worked it out, the thing to do is to photograph it as well. That's quite nice. You see, it's how far do you need to go? There's a thing, you know, I like it when it's really overworked and got masses and masses of colour on it that sort of come in and out of focus when you look at it. But I also really like the simplicity of it, you know, when it's nice and simple. It's funny with this as well because I think I like so much of it. I like the instantaneous mark making. I think that's enough. There's a really beautiful immediacy, isn't there? And obviously you can really overdo it. And then you lose your immediacy, don't you? You lose that you had. So it's a bit tricky, isn't it? What exactly do you want from them? The other thing I was going to tell you, I've got this really gorgeous glue. International Conservation by Design, CXD, conservation adhesive. And it was about 22 quid. And I know that it doesn't produce the toxins that a PVA glue, anything other than the really good quality bookbinding glue, will produce. So it won't rot the papers when they're framed, or a book when it's put in a box or is folded away. That was from, yeah, Lyons Framing Suppliers. You see, there's two. I feel guilty, but there's two there that I don't need to change. I'm going to just leave them as they are. It's that funny. Even I really like this one. I might bring some more colour in through here and get rid of some of this sort of where it's got damaged almost by touch or something. And then maybe just work on these three. This one I will put some of these on there. And again, it's what do you do? There's such lovely potential in them. But it's almost too much to think about. I'm going to put some white through here. And I'm just going to probably just put some gesso. I like the gesso because unlike the acrylic paint, there is a slight absorbency about it, so it responds to the further application of paint in a different way. It's not just a white, it's a surface on which to paint, and I scrape through it in order to make some areas translucent, it does have a very nice effect, and I do use it quite a lot as a white sort of overpainting. And I also let its texture affect the image. I then go on to the first image of the 6, one that I knew had already been resolved, and it was just a question of sticking the pieces down. So I use my lovely glue that I mentioned earlier, conservationist glue, and doesn't contain toxins that will damage the paper when it's framed. I test it with my aperture just to make sure it's nice. Go on to the next one, and in this case I really love the gestural mark making, the instantaneous marks that I'd put. I just needed to consolidate the black to make the colour dense, especially in comparison to the lovely mark making that was so quick and so dependent on the moment of painting. Then on to the third one, and here again I liked the gestural instantaneous mark makings of the original paintings, but I wasn't able to consolidate them. As soon as you start painting over them, you lose the lovely instant mark, the spontaneous mark of the first gesture, and I wasn't happy with what I'd created. So I went on just simply to add some more gesso onto it, and tried to allow it to be resolved with further experimentation and further painting. There's so much a part of this type of work which is either knowing when to stop or when to keep going. Last of all, I add my own particular marks that are very dependent on my personality and style. I've now got the grounding for 6 pictures. I've realised that it need only be really simple, because that one has really come out nicely, and this one has come out really nicely once the sort of blacks are more consolidated. The rest I really like the movement of it, so I'm going to leave that one and just have the confidence to present it as it is. And this one, like, this is gesso and it's cracked beautifully. Yeah, I mean, it might be interesting to see what I can do with that. So instead of fussing, I am just going to add really lovely bits from the collages, the mark making that I've got, that we've done. I'm going to quickly do these on speed, and then I'm going to do another one that's a bit more complex. It wasn't my intention, but this one has really been sort of determined by its own request, by its own personality and demands, and just to keep it pretty simple and let the mark making speak for itself and don't overcomplicate it. Well, that's what I'm hoping is going to happen. So I like that one. I don't know what I'm going to do with the white there. So I'll put it on speed, mainly because the studio is so cold and my fires make a noise, so I can't have them on. We've had minus 10 degrees in Buxton in Derbyshire. So I'm going to just put it on speed, keep my fires on, and I'll speak over the top of it. Right, I fast forwarded this just so that you can quickly see how I do it. To show you the process throughout would be a little bit tedious. When you look at this, you'll see how I did it and how I made the decisions and the sort of decisions I made. So I like painting over the gesso because it's got this particularly absorbent quality. Here I begin using it with fairly dry Acrylic blue and lamp black, and then move on to adding some acrylic matte medium, liquid medium, and that's so that there's a binding agent within the acrylic which water dissolves. It takes it away by adding water, but when you add the matte medium it keeps its binding agents, so it'll stick to the painting properly and isn't ever going to flake off or rub off. This process is really nice because you get to rub the acrylic inks into all the grooves and marks of the gesso medium, because the gesso you've also put textures in. And now I'm showing you, I've used the collages, the papers that I'd made from rolling inks over textures. So you put the paper on top of the textures and then you roll the ink on top of it and get the textures of what's underneath onto the papers. And that paper would have been white and black, and I had added a bit of a Acrylic blue glaze onto it. So it's perfect for this image, just by chance really. And again, you can see how I've thought about shapes and positioning and how they work. And I place the aperture over it just to see what it's like, and I think I needed one more piece, so I just bung an extra piece in, and that's going to be like that. They're not the easiest things to resolve, and sometimes you just sort of do things by chance, but something does help you determine what you need, and it's experience and knowledge. So it'll be your sort of practice over a period of time that gives you the confidence to mark making the way you do, and also the knowledge of how it's going to behave on the paper. So I put, it's like a pewter silver this, and I put it on quite thick. You can hardly see this, but I use a softening brush just to take the marks, so that really all you can see is the marks of the gesso underneath, and then I do my sort of signature mark making over the top. I make sure that the mark making isn't regular as well. On this one, it's the little red strip of some collage paper that sort of determines the rest of the colour. And again, I use the acrylic mixed with a matte medium so that there's a bonding agents in it. I use the cloth to rub the colour into the acrylic so that it gets caught in all the grooves and the mark making of the gesso. And I use a red there and an orange because I wanted it to be rich and vibrant, and I wanted the two tones because it adds depth. And then it's a question of deciding what sort of collage, what sort of mark making I want to go on top, and it's really more or less a game and a play determined by experience and taste, I suppose. That was the same thing, the rolled textures that was painted in a glaze of red acrylic there. So there you go. I'm just seeing there if I want that piece to go extend over that side, and I didn't. So I now just glue it down with my lovely conservation glue. I think I've forgotten to glue down the red piece there on the right hand side, so I'd better make sure I check that out. And then it's just a question of aligning it so that it appeals, so that it all sings to one another and has a lovely effect, a lovely harmony. It's not really a harmony, it's more a dialogue, isn't it? I don't think my pieces are particularly harmonious. They're more, I don't know, intriguing or something. They sort of pull you in, is what the idea is, that's what the hope is. So there's that one done. Move things a little bit. Oh, and there I by mistake wipe off some of the acrylic, and I thought, oh, that looks quite nice, so I tried it and then felt the white was too strong, so painted it back out again. One of the joys of this process, you know, the mistakes you can make don't really matter. Right, and now I start on the other one. Oh, I think I did put that piece in. Did I glue that piece in? Yes, I did. Okay, then I start on the other one, and again, I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. This one took a while. I had to make decisions, but partly based on the way that I like things to be different. I don't like to be doing the same thing. I don't like to say, right, all these mark making are working, so I'm just going to reproduce them in another image. I like a bit of a challenge, and I really wanted this to be slightly different and not like the others. So I sort of approached it from a different angle. I mean, I still seem to get the horizontals and verticals in all the time. The process is so much fun because there's so much that I've made in the past, partly in the demos that I do and partly just because of course we all collect everything. But some of the mark making on the rolled pieces that I've mentioned before, the video where I rolled over texture, were just marvellous to use, and I could take really lovely details out. So again, gluing down with the conservation glue and then starting to try and make decisions. But it wasn't real. Oh, at this point I am making sure that I'm not missing something that's happened and that would have been beautiful if I'd left it. But I wasn't particularly pleased with it, so I kept going. And this one wasn't really resolved until I had done the one on the left of this one, which I did in fact neglect to film, but it was a very simple one, and the actual procedure and the principle of it is in this one. So I'd got these horizontals and verticals, and then I went and added a very different sort of angled mark that was obviously been influenced by the image above, but it was not in dialogue with the horizontals and verticals properly. So I knew I'd lost it. But of course the beauty of this whole thing is that you can keep going, and there obviously will be points when you make mistakes and something does have to simply go in the bin, but I did actually manage to resolve this one in the end, and in fact really enjoyed doing it. There's a hint of acrylic blue in there, which again I really liked. And it wasn't until I'd done the one on the left that I learnt how to do this. So that is the iridescent gold in there, which dries more gold. I mean, it's very white when it's wet. And then I brought in these lovely, very spontaneous marks. They were the sort of marks that I made, and I knew they were right. I didn't have to alter it. I thought about putting a bit of silver foil, gold foil there, but changed my mind, I didn't like it. Went back to the other one to try and resolve it again, and also to let the one on the left dry. And it just took me a while. I tried all sorts of different bits and pieces that I wasn't pleased with. And it's funny, isn't it? Some of them come out really quickly and sort of respond to the mark making in a way that you can control and feel confident with, and others you just doubt. I was just having a look at them all there because, you know, it's interesting to see why is it that you like one and not another. So now I'm just dragging through the same. It's the pewter, the silver, but it's a silver pewter, silver, iridescent gold and black. And the way that you do it with this is lovely because the colours come through each other. They're wet and they're layered and they're marked and they sit in the grooves and they corrupt each other. I mean, I really like it. It looks to me like things moving in nature. Okay, poor me, I'm still trying. I get 8 marks for persistence here. Right, the one on the left there I'd worked on and the camera hadn't worked, but now I knew what I wanted on the one on the right. And what it was that lovely mark that runs to the bottom of the one on the left, and that was a piece of collage cut out in that particular angle. So that's what I'm doing on the right. I've got a piece of collage and I followed the lines of the marks on the collage and got this lovely piece of paper with really nice marks on it that became one of the stronger elements in the picture and started to dominate the lines and took away from that horizontal and vertical mark making. And that diagonal mark across it became the strongest part and had the most personality. I'd stuck some sort of silver foiled paper that I'd mommigamied there, and now I'm rubbing acrylic ink into it so it literally sits into the creases that were made by the mommigami folding. And that's about that for that one. I ended up really enjoying it. And this one had resolved so quickly once I'd got that bottom mark in the bottom and added the little bits of silver foil. Right, so I've done the 6. I'm really pleased with them. They're all slightly different. That one happened really easily. This one was very easy, was very spontaneous. The blue and the red one happened really quickly, but of course they don't, do they? They happen because you've practiced and learnt and experienced these mark making and start to learn to control them. This middle one, bottom middle one, resolved itself in the end, and again it was a culmination of all that you had learnt in the past. And the last one, again, just because of the beautiful marks that had happened and the collage, the strength of the collage cut out pieces, that one was resolved relatively easily. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it, and see you again. All the best. So we end up with 6 abstracts. 1, the first one I did. 2, the second one that was sort of not really touched, just the black amalgamated. 3, which was gessoed and glazed in light blue with the collage applied. 4, gessoed and orange and reds and collage applied. This was number 5, and this was the one that was more difficult to resolve, but I really like this one in the end. More work, collage, line, and then lastly one that had some nice, very instantaneous marks, sort of brought together by the collage, and then some silver foil just to give it some interest. I hope you like them. Thanks very much for watching.